Hello.
Hello.
Oh, so we have no idea when these live streams actually go live, so we'll just continue to say hello, welcome to Chi Time, Mandy Preece.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me. This is so special.
Oh, it is so special because you and I have kind of known each other for like a long time, haven't we? So just going to just unmute that little live thing going on in the background. So it's working, which is fantastic.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, having known each other for quite some time, we don't even want to know how many years that is, do we really? No. But it's good. It is. Oh my goodness. I tell you what, we're going to fess up here just before we get into this lovely interview with Mandy and we can actually get into the flow of it, of having a little bit of technological stuff. How many other people watching this has technological glitches to deal with, where things that say they're going to do something don't do something, and you're going, am I just being silly here? Do I don't understand these commands that used to work and now they don't? A bit of a metaphor for what's going on in the world, eh? But anyway, I'm just going to plug in because then that is all working. Good. So thankfully, Mandy's amazing book, Being Rock, kind of has got what we're all dealing with at the moment all over it. And you know, you've done you've created a masterpiece here, actually, my love. And because it gets to the absolute point, it gets the nux of what everybody needs and what everybody wants. And your experience of working as a volunteer in the NHS for many years has given you the key tools to be able to share this. And I'm just going to say, Mandy, I feel embarrassed about that as I say this, but you did actually receive an award. You were the NHS Unsung Hero Volunteer of the Year 2019.
Thank you. Thank you. It was very humbling and incredibly humbling because you find out what other incredible things volunteers and people in the NHS are doing. So it was a very special evening.
Oh, I bet it was. Well, and we can see now the amount of help that's coming through for people at the moment. It's like we do all really care about one another in our hearts. This whole compassion field of being, we're all in this situation together. And this book, Being Rock, I'm so proud of you. And I know what you went through to get it here, actually in physical form. And I'm not going to ask you about that, but I am going to ask you how it came about. Why did you find yourself thinking, I need to write a book about this?
I started volunteering in a palliative care unit, an NHS palliative care unit. And I asked, after a few years of being a volunteer in the day centre, if I could actually go onto the ward and sit with people who were dying and support their families. And it was a bit of a struggle to get there. Everybody was a bit like, well, volunteers don't normally do that in the evening on their own. But I pushed, and eventually, with a lot of support from nursing staff, actually, I was given a trial. And on my first night on the ward, a nurse, a very fierce but absolutely extraordinarily lovely nurse, said to me, so what are you going to do? I'm like, oh, I don't know. I said, well, how about I go listen? And she said, very good, you go do that. So I started to, visit with people and listen. And I think I was always somebody who instinctively felt I was more of a listener. I'm an introvert, I'm more of a listener than not. But I read up a lot about listening and active listening. And so I was trying to be a really good active listener, and it wasn't working. And it took me a while to think, well, what am I doing wrong? So I thought, well, I'm just going to stop trying to be this active listener, because I think what was going wrong is nobody was expecting me to be a listener. They were just expecting somebody to come in and be alongside them for a while. And I was trying too hard. I was trying really hard. I was like eager bunny listener. It just wasn't what somebody needed. It was too intense. It was too, go on, I'm here, talk to me, wasn't working. So I thought, okay, I'm going to let the patients and their families teach me what it means to be alongside someone. I'm going to throw all the ideas of what I think I should do out the window, and be taught, very humbly be taught how to be alongside. And what I discovered, Clara, in the process of that was that we can be the best listeners in the world, but if the person that is speaking doesn't feel heard, it's not working. So part of my whole discovery is, how do we enable someone to actually feel heard? And how do we bring our presence alongside someone so that they almost don't notice us?
Oh, I love that. So you're facilitating a very kind, compassionate space for another to be in, and then what comes out and through them is heard, is witnessed. This is really important, isn't it?
Yeah, so you become a witness.
Yeah.
So you're not, because I'm not being a professional listener as volunteer, and I didn't have that training, what I can offer then is to be alongside someone as their witness. And obviously, yes, do chit chat and just, have conversations. But when somebody then chooses you as their rock, and what I mean by that is they suddenly feel safe with you, so they go deeper, then that's a rock moment. And then I've got to be steady and present and very mindful that I have to get me out of the way, because it isn't about me.
Right. You just brought up something very, very quintessential there. You notice when a rock moment occurs. So you might be chit-chatting, talking about whatever, and it's just natural exchange. And then something drops in, and you and your astuteness recognize that as a rock moment. Can you tell us about that, please?
Yeah, so there's a couple of ways that people tend to do that. So one of them I literally call it the drop. So people will drop into the conversation something that's bothering them, but most people do it by hiding it between a lot of other words. Normally they sandwich it between two nice things. So they might say something like, I've had a really nice day today. If we think about the situation we're all in at the moment with lockdown, so a drop could be, I've had a really nice day today, I did a little bit of gardening. Obviously I'm feeling really lonely, but it's been a lovely sunny day. So the drop is, I'm feeling really lonely, but I'm going to hide it. So now I watch out for what people say just before the but.
Yeah. Now there's a lot of this, as you so rightly say, how we're all managing to cope with this sudden change in our home life, in our work life, in society's life. Nobody knows what's coming next. And it places us at home, thank goodness, for those of us that are lucky enough to have a home. And also this thing about social distancing, I don't think that is the correct term. I think it's obviously physical distancing at the moment, but the social interaction is just huge. It feels to me like we're getting stronger, being rocks for one another via the networks. Yeah.
And I think one of the things too, I really wanted to share with everybody was, all of us will be challenged in different ways. Yeah. All of us are going to have really vast differences between our situation when we started and how our situation's changed. And one of the things that I think has helped me is to understand that whenever anyone is sharing their situation, they're not trying to upstage anyone. They're not trying to say, oh, my situation's worse than your situation. What they're trying to do is accept their reality. And if in telling you what their reality is, actually what they're doing is choosing you as their rock, they actually see you as a safe person they can tell. And it's actually a compliment. So they're not meaning to make you think, oh gosh, why are they telling me that I can't relate to their situation? The reason they're telling you is they see you as a safe person.
Wow, that is an honor, but it's also a responsibility. So how can we, let's look at this, how can we be rock for somebody when we realize that they've just come out with something and they need this space held? And where do we go with that? How do we manage that situation?
So one of the things that really helped me, because obviously I'm sitting with people who are terminally ill, and obviously you can take an awful lot on. So one of the things that helped me was to realize this is a rock moment, and I'm going to be a rock. And a rock can hear all of that, but not need to absorb it further into themselves. Again, I'm being rock now, so it's not about me, and I don't need to take it in, and I don't need to fix it, and I don't need to help. I just need to witness, because that's what I can offer.
That's beautiful. So there's this, what's coming up here is this difference between empathy and sympathy. So with sympathy, it's like, I've got to be seen to be getting involved with your situation, so that you really feel that I'm there with you. I'm sad with you. I'm having a tragic moment with you, and all that. It's like, that's not going to help someone who's going through it. They don't want to make your life have that resonance to it. That presence of being, as you say, a rock in your heart, an open heart and a clear rock root down into the earth, to be able to be a place of empathy, so that there's a different energy between the words empathy and sympathy, aren't there?
There are. And also I think there's a little bit, I found this, so this is I made loads of mistakes, Cara, so this is all come from mistakes. But I thought I knew what empathy was. I thought, if I can imagine what it's like to be in somebody else's shoes, I'm there. But one of the things I realized is, we cannot tell our story and be empathetic. So if I said to you, I know how you feel because, I went off on my story, I am no longer being rock, because now I'm making it about my story and comparing my situation to your situation. And I was making that mistake, because I thought that was empathy, but it isn't. So what the idea is more that in empathy you say, for instance, say if somebody said to you, I can understand your grief because I lost a distant friend last week, okay? But the person you're talking to has just lost their dad. Okay, so you've both got, you're trying to be empathetic because you've had a similar experience, but it's not similar to the person that has just lost their dad, because that's a much closer relationship, right? But what you can do instead is say, I too have felt grief, and I know how hard that is.
Right. So you have that point of reference as, I've had something similar, here's my experience, but without taking it away from their current experience that they are.
Share what you have in common, which is the emotion of grief, but not share your story.
Now this is getting to the sharing the emotion. It's noticing that what emotions are being shared, isn't it? Because the words, we do our best to describe emotions with words, but this is what the feeling of presence and being in that space, holding that space. And we talk about it a lot, but holding space is probably one of the most important things that we're doing here, right?
Right. And holding space authentically. So I was trying to be, perfect listener. Don't do that. Be yourself. Because if somebody has been watching you, getting to know you, and they see you as somebody that they really care about and can know that you can be trusted and that you can be their rock, when they tell you their deep stuff, they don't want you to change into weird listening person. They want you to stay you. Yeah. And that was a big learning curve for me. It's almost like whoever in your family you're listening to, don't change, because they'll notice that you've changed. So if somebody is telling you, like say your child is suddenly telling you deep stuff while you're prepping dinner, don't turn at them, don't drop everything down and make it a thing. Just carry on prepping dinner, but let them know that you're listening. So just say, oh, I hear you feel sad at the moment, or something. But I found that if you shine a huge spotlight on somebody, it can be too much, especially for younger people, teenage people. It doesn't work. And there's good proof of that, isn't there, right? Because all the times that we have amazing conversations in the car, and we're not looking at each other, we're not wondering whether we're both doing open body posture or whatever. And I think it's because presence is really, really strong. There's just two of you in a car. So think of all the times that people talk to their hairdresser. They've got them. It's presence that works. And I think we can all do that, right? So this isn't about, being rock is not about professional listening at all. And can I just say, I have the greatest respect for all the professional listeners out there. I wouldn't be sitting here happy, safe, if it hadn't been for incredible people who supported me therapeutically for my mental health. And if there's anyone out here watching this and you think you need help, please reach out to the professionals and find the professional that fits you.
Yeah, that's such a wise observation there. Is when you need professional help, you're actually making a choice. You maybe had some rock moments with your besties and you're kind of thinking, there's only so much I can do for myself here. I need to get some people on board that can actually really help me through this. And then you're entering into a contract situation with them anyway, and then they're professional, they know what they're doing there. But we can, out on the streets, you say, in the car, or not that many of us are driving that much at the moment, but I think you're so right, doing the natural things that are normal, because it's if your kid or your partner or your friend says something and you know it's a rock drop, if you turn around and look at them and you say, focus on and go, well, what's the matter? That little vulnerability is going to go, oh my God, there's too much pressure on me to come up with trying to explain it. And I know that's one of the things that you talk about in your book, Being Rock by Mandy Preece, here on Chi Time, is to say what is wrong or what is the matter is like assuming that something is wrong, or what is this matter thing anyway? It's more like having space to expand or share the emotion behind this difficulty that somebody is going through.
And I think sometimes when we say what's the matter, the person doesn't actually know what's the matter, so they don't know how to answer it. So you get that nothing, because people aren't quite sure what's the wrong. But if you're steady with them, my best advice is, if you hear a drop, is just reflect that really, really gently, almost like you're just saying, so if somebody said to you, I'm feeling lonely, you just say lonely, but don't make a big thing of it. Don't go lonely, because then, it's so subtle. And then what you're doing is enabling that person to feel heard, because they will recognize that you heard their drop, or subconsciously probably. So that might be enough, that they feel somebody heard me, that I'm lonely. But also that if you give them space after, reflecting that words, they may come back to you and say, yeah, I've actually been feeling really isolated, and explain where they are. So I think it's really, again, about being subtle. Yeah.
And intuitive, with the energy of the moment, and not freaking out when somebody says something that could be quite loaded. Actually, as you say earlier, feel honoured that they feel that it's safe enough to share with you. I just want to go really practical on this, if you don't mind me. I'm going to read something from the book, which is about what happens. It's on page 43, 44. When they don't tell you what's wrong beyond words, reflect the emotion. So there's two scenarios here where it's between a child and a dad. So the child is saying, the child is not speaking, but brimming with sadness and frustration. And dad says, what's the matter? Which we now know is not the thing to say. Child then wells up with tears and just shakes his head. And then dad says, oh, what's wrong? Child, nothing. Now looks angry as well and looks down. Dad says, what is it? Can't you tell me? Child storms off shouting, stop asking me so many questions. I mean, how many of us, that's coming from care, that dad wants to know, he wants to help, but he just hasn't got the training to be able to, be able to understand why what he's saying isn't helping his kid.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I really, really realised is I'm a bit like, I think a bit like hardware and software. So my hard drive has the ability to be rock, but I have a software program that wants to make everything okay.
Yeah. You want to mend it. You want to fix it.
Especially with our kids, right? We want them to be all right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And everybody around us right now, because everybody's struggling. We want them, so desperately want them to be okay. So all of this always comes from kindness.
Yes.
It really does. But sometimes we need somebody to hear where we are and not where they want us to be.
That is so true. To hear where they are, not where we would like them to be. So what would you suggest to the dad in that situation to be able to encourage his child to open up?
So when anybody is very emotional and almost beyond words, but you can see, you know them well, somebody in your family right now, you might be able to see they're angry, frustrated, or teary, then you reflect the emotion. So you just say, you seem a bit teary today, or you seem a bit sad today. And here's the secret, Clara, you can't say anything else after it. So just literally say those words, and don't make a big thing of it again, not looking at them, maybe busy yourself, but stay present with them and see what happens.
So that space after reflecting the emotion is really poignant and presentful and important, not to jump in with a kind of, but it's okay, really, or something like that.
Yeah.
Because there's the space for that vulnerability to open up.
And that's why I like the analogy of being rock, because I have to remind myself that rocks don't run around trying to.
Oh, nice. No, they don't.
They're just there. Yeah.
Yeah. And you do hear about people say, oh, he was my rock or she was my rock, so it is something that is in our vernacular already, but bringing it in as a descriptive word as being rock, where you can actually be a rock for yourself. And that, I think, is really important at the moment too, is knowing how to self-care and be steady on the inside when there's so much chaos and drama going on around us. How can we be rocks for ourselves?
Yeah, and I had to learn that. I really burnt out, and that's been a very honest journey in the book, really, that I realized I could be rock for other people, but I could listen to other people. I didn't listen to myself. I wasn't listening to my own needs, and I wasn't filling myself back up. So I think joy is really important. What brings you joy? That's how you fill yourself back up. That's how you are able to give to other people, support your family around you in these very difficult times, is to try and find something that you actually do take time for each day that fills you with joy. I think that's really important. And also, I've made a list of all the people in my life who were rocks for me in different situations. So who was my work rock? Who was my spiritual rock? Who was my one that always makes me laugh? And then you know who are the people that I maybe need to connect with online right now in this very difficult situation, because today I need someone to make me laugh, or today I need someone who can hear me cry, or today I need to just talk how hard it is with work because I can't do my work in the same way anymore, and I need to brainstorm that with someone. Mm-hmm. So have a look, because if you write down who your rocks are, it's really interesting.
I like that as an exercise for people listening or watching. Write down who you feel your rocks are, and also how you feel you can be rocks for others. What are your strengths? What are you able to offer? And even though, I mean, it's presence really, that are you able to be that kind of presented person? And I do feel that taking care of yourself first to fill you up. And I was thinking, as you were talking about the joys of life, it's, for me, it's simple pleasures. I mean, just getting a buzz out of the fact I have a home, every morning. But the sun and the birds, nature, just being so grateful and graciously grateful about the spring doing its thing naturally. It's just, this is here in the UK, and I think there's those simple things that we can rely on, and that they're going to be there. At the moment, there's so little that we feel we can rely on right now, that the things that we can, let's really appreciate them, and then that energy will grow and it will help to sustain us, and then we can be rocks for one another. And the other thing that was coming up when you were saying you're having different people to rock out with, you also have a partner as well. So you're not expecting them to be your rock for everything, because that would put a real pressure on that one person, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's right. And I think, choose your rocks for what they can bring for you, and be very mindful of that you cannot expect everyone to be a perfect rock for you. And remember that you cannot be rock if you are desperately unstable yourself. So one of the things that we talked about in my family is that we've talked about the idea, there's three of us at home, me, my husband and my son. We've all each chosen a little rock. So we've all got our own little rock. And what we've talked about is, if we're really struggling, we can put our rock by the kettle, because we go to the kettle a lot because we're British, obviously, and we drink a lot of tea. We can put our rock by the kettle, and that signifies to the two other members of the family, I need extra support today because I'm really struggling. But you don't have to explain what that extra support is. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to say, oh, I need you to rock me, because you just say, that symbol just says, today I'm struggling. And I found it really important that my son chose a rock, and we talked about it, and he said, okay, so if I wake up and I do feel teary, I can just put my rock by the kettle. Yeah.
Oh, that's bringing up so much. That is just beautiful, because it means that you don't need an excuse to be rock, to need rocking.
To need rocking.
Yeah,
and then for all of those people like yourself, Clara, who are on your own at the moment, who are the people that in your life that you could trust enough to send them a photo of your rock
by the kettle,
and then on the days that you're struggling, you just send them that image?
That is so lovely. So we can do this remotely as well, because there's a lot of us that are living alone in my hermitage. I do feel that my life for 5 years on the road has really helped me live like this. To me, it's normal at the moment. It's not what I want long term, but at the moment it's something that I recognize, and I do have a good brace of rocks. Of you are definitely one. And
vice versa.
And for you to have acknowledged, so when Mandy was first writing this book, well, not when she first, in the middle of writing it, and you were saying that how much my journey had inspired you to speak about being rock for yourself, it made me realize just what I'd been doing on those 5 years onwards, is to learning how to self-care. So it is rocking yourself is deep self-care, and it's real self-care. It's not pretend self-care. It's like you're up against it self-care. You need to really find what you need within from yourself, and that can resource you so deeply. And I'm a Qigong teacher trainer, but I needed to get my practice back. For me, I needed it to be the practice that I wanted, not what I was going to be teaching people later, but what I actually needed. And it was the menopause that kicked my ass on that one, and it just made me exactly. So that's one of the silver linings of this midlife stage that we're in, is that it calls you to look at what you need now, which is not the same as what you needed 20 years ago, and won't be the same as what you need in 20 years if we get there.
No, and that I think you've hit the nail on the head about how we're being rocks for each other, is that we have to remember that as an adult supporting a teenager, we have to greet them where they are, because they're in a very different place to where we are. And it's and boy, I feel sorry for my husband having to rock me through the menopause, but it's been a huge learning curve for both of us. So I think self-care is really important, and it's very individual, and we have to find, first of all, I think I had to learn to listen to myself, and then I had to learn to be brave enough to say I'm struggling.
That's a tough one.
It's a tough one. It's really tough. And people all over the world, there's so many of us who are calling out for personal connection, and this is something we can all do for each other, and we don't have to be perfect at this.
No,
this isn't a thing we have to do and get right. It's just a thing we have deep inside us that we can offer. And just know that if somebody is choosing you as their rock, they're not expecting you to be perfect. They're just looking for connection.
They are. They're looking for connection so that you can feel safe to be vulnerable. And remember, as you said earlier, it's not about being in competition. We know there are people that have terrible lives, really, really tough, and our hearts go out to them, our compassion, and, you know, all in good time. We want to be, well, now we want to be able to take care of as many people as we can. But in the here and now, when we're responsible for ourselves like that, and for one another, and this being rock, this is the ripple, it's the rock in the pool that's going to ripple out and actually start really showing us how communities really work for one another.
I hope so. I think that
forward.
would be, yeah, that would be amazing. And if I find as well that younger people really can engage a bit more with the term, that they're being a rock for each other rather than they're listeners, you know, it's easier. It's easier to relate to. Yeah,
it's quite cool as well. It's a bit of a new vernacular, new way of using an old word. So Mandy Preece, being rock fame, I think we're going to say now. I wish you so much love and luck. Not that you need it because it's already happening. It's all already out there. How can people find out more about you and what it is you're doing?
Okay, thank you. You can find me on the web. I'm at mandypreece.uk. You can find the book on Amazon. So if you just put in Being Rock and Mandy Preece, depending on where you live, you're definitely going to get me. And also I'm on Facebook and Twitter. My handle is Mandy J. Preece.
Okay, and that is Preece. Yeah.
Yes.
Have you got one classic rock moment to share with us before we leave?
Okay, I'm gonna. This is an embarrassing one. So I came home from a difficult situation at work. Husband's in the kitchen doing the dishes, and I bundled around and, you know, bit stroppy. And he said something, and I did a spectacular menopausal rant in the kitchen. I mean, it was really good. Not directed at him about this issue, but it was, you know, big rant. And at the end of it, he turned around and smiled at me and he said, you know, that reflecting that drop thing, it really works. And I hadn't even noticed that he'd done it.
Brilliant.
And I have to say, if you reflect a drop and somebody does do a huge rant, remember, rants are like storms. They're letting somebody let off steam.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, that's such a good point and such a lovely illustration, and that we've got a gamut of emotions in us, and it's not all about, you know, being tearful and sad and emotional. Sometimes there is the frustration, the anger, and, you know, as British people, we meant to all keep it all in. It's like, no, punch it out. We've got great qigongs around expressing liver element frustrations, and as you said, it needs to come out, because when it comes out, it clears. We want to clear that stagnation. We want to the emotions that we feel, that big fear thing that's being, you know, perpetuated around the world. We're not supposed to hold on to them. We notice them and we let them flow through us. So it's the sticking of them and the holding in that causes the problems. So
and I think also, can I just say as well, being rock is about letting people share their joy too.
Okay,
it's
nice.
Really important. So in these troubled times, it can be, you can feel a bit like, if something really lovely happens, you feel a bit awkward about maybe sharing it, but actually, you know, part of being rock is to hear people's joy, because we need that to balance all the struggles that we're going through. We do.
Yeah, we need it all. Oh, thank you so much for being part of Chi Time, Mandy Preece.
You're welcome.
Oh, go well and be rock round the world.
World rock chick, that would be fun.
Oh, I'm loving it. So loads of spin-offs going here as we are sitting here rocking the menopause like nothing else, and encouraging other women to do the same. So go well with the rest of your day. Thanks to all of you that are watching or listening on playback and replay. Thank you so much for your time. It's very important, and we wish you well this Easter.
Stay safe, everyone. Cheers.
Bye for now. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.